Joining us now for more on all of this and much more, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, former FDA commissioner and a CNBC contributor. He also serves on the boards of Pfizer and Illumina. His new book, Uncontrolled Spread, Why COVID-19 Crushed Us and How We Can Defeat the Next Pandemic, is out in September. Dr. Gottlieb, good to have you with us. The news of the three senators, the three fully vaccinated senators having breakthrough infections, what does that do you think, to the effort to vaccinate all Americans?
Well, look, I'm not sure it's going to do much, quite frankly. I think we recognize right now that there's a risk that people who are vaccinated can develop mild infections, asymptomatic infections. Certainly, the thesis around the vaccines, the original premise around the vaccines, that they reduce the risk of serious disease and hospitalization, is still intact. We still see in the data that the vast majority of people who are getting in trouble with COVID are people who are unvaccinated. I think there's now a recognition that this Delta variant is sufficiently contagious that it can pierce the protections offered by the vaccine, particularly if you were vaccinated a while ago and have declining immunity, as these senators probably did because they were vaccinated a long time ago. So, people who are vaccinated in the setting of this epidemic surge, especially if they're in places where there's a high prevalence of infection, need to take appropriate precautions. You can't just throw caution to the wind. You can still become a vehicle for spread in your community.
What should we make of the administration's recommendation that Americans get booster shots soon? And I'm wondering if you believe that the science actually backs this up in terms of the need for a booster and the timing of the booster.
Well, look, I've obviously had the opportunity to take a close look at the data, particularly out of Israel, as a member of Pfizer's board of directors. And what you do see in the data from Israel, the real-world evidence, is declining immunity over time, declining immune protection over time in the form of circulating antibodies that's more pronounced in older individuals. And so it happens to be the case that we vaccinate some of our most vulnerable older individuals in our society last December and January, particularly nursing homes. And so I think the prudent thing to do would be to get additional immunity in that population, especially considering the fact that we're dealing with a much more contagious variant. What's probably happening in these patients who are becoming infected after vaccination is that over time your circulating antibodies decline. So because Delta is such a virulent form of the virus and has such high virus levels early in the course of the infection, the high virus titers of a Delta infection, can overwhelm a declining level of circulating antibodies in your blood. So therefore, you become infected and you become dependent upon secondary immune cells like memory B cells and T cells to then fight off the infection. Now, the vaccine induces the production of those cells. So the vaccine is preventing severe disease in many of these cases, but it takes a few days for those cells to kick in. And so in the meantime, you've become infected with the Delta variant. That's probably what's happening in these patients who have declining circulating antibodies because they were vaccinated a very long time ago. So the administration is prepping booster shots for September. I think the one cohort that I'd be very concerned about right now, trying to get those boosters in earlier if possible, would be the nursing home population. And there may be ways to start giving boosters to the nursing home population sooner.
Hey, looking down the road, Scott, a therapeutic that would be really effective in an oral form. In the past, dealing with viruses, I mean, we haven't been able to do it for certain diseases, obviously, but we have for others. Would we see variants mutating around a therapeutic? And how long would you expect that to take where we could, maybe have a pill that took the worst case scenario off the table so that someday, we're better able to think that we're completely normal again, like pre-pandemic?
Yeah, well, look, we've seen oral antivirals in other disease settings become resistant. So we've seen in HIV, for example, and even in flu, we've seen some of the antivirals, the initial antivirals, the virus figured out how to mutate around it. But presumably an antiviral that targeted the core machinery of how this virus replicates could be durable. There's 3 in advanced development, one by Pfizer, the company I'm on the board of, another one by Merck that are probably the 2 furthest along, and then one by Roche that's a little further behind. All look promising. All are in pivotal studies right now.
Yeah,
so hopefully we could have data at some point this fall or winter that could be an additional, addition to our armamentarium. I still think we're going to vaccinate against this, though.
Right.